To be honest, I don't know what tone to have on this video. I've got one of my dogs snoring behind me. That's Bo. That might help to add some ambient noise. I have the heater. I have a baby upstairs who's crying. That might help. How long have I been talking about Ethel Cain? A name, I can't help but say her name like Michael Caine. Ethel Cain. How long, Miss Owen, have I been talking about Ethel Cain? No, not comedy, Skye. Don't go to comedy. I don't know what tone to have when talking about Ethel Cain, but I've been talking about her work since at least 2001, whenever it was that Inbred came out. And at that time, I said, I don't know. Listen, this was before I had views, okay? So if I did stuff that was clickbaity and lame, no one cared because I didn't have, I didn't have the plaque. Self-effacing, maybe that's a good tone. I always go to that one. Anyways, I said first Taylor, then Lana, now Ethel. This idea that she was going to be this great new face of pop stardom. And I really thought that was a possibility, and I really thought that The Preacher's Daughter delivered on that promise, of this, what I call a pop indiva, cross between pop diva and indie diva, epic and emotionally relatable. Well, that helps the atmosphere. The lights went out. That actually really helps. I appreciate that. Thank you, cosmic forces that made the lighting on this video much worse. You're already watching, though, so you're screwed. You got to keep watching to the end. I might say something or do something cool, no one can do this. You can try that. You can't do it, though. Now that I've shown you, you're going to try. You're going to pause the video, and you're going to try, and you won't be able to do it. Anyways, I might do something cool like that, but I'm not going to do that again. Anyways, what did she do? This next great pop indiva. What was the next thing that she could do? Could she follow it up the next year or the next year? No, the next year. She had a path, and I think it was pretty clear the way that she could have gone, and she turned away. She turned away. She turned away. Because she's a pervert. Or at least that's the name of this album. Pervert is a very interesting word. It only means sexually deviant since 1898. You know what kind of video this is. This is a video that requires my trusty copy of Chambers' Dictionary of Etymology, the only book I reference at least 3 times a month. Okay? The importance of words is... Jesus Christ, am I about to say important? The importance of words is important. I'm a professor. Hello, thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who uses the word important twice in one sentence, because I am such a big brain. I'm sorry, I'm really bad. It's rough. If you care about humanity, it's rough. And I care about humanity. It's rough. Anyways. Perverts. Pervert, to corrupt. From about 1380 in English. Perverten, overthrow, lead or turn from what is right. Misconstrue, misapply. In Chaucer's translation of Boetius, borrowed from Old French pervertir, parvertir, and directly from Latin pervertere, corrupt, to turn the wrong way. It comes from per, which means destruction or away, and vertere, which means to turn. It literally means to turn away. The perverted person was first attested in 1661 as a corrupted person, an apostate. The meaning of one who practices sexual perversion is first recorded in 1897, and that is in particular applied to homosexuals. Okay, that was how it was initially applied. Initially, it used to be, if you called someone a pervert, it was the same thing as calling them a homosexual. Not initially, but as of like the first half of the 20th century. Straight people only got to be perverts much later, at least in terms of common parlance. So that's what interests me, is turning away, because it's a religious term. You think of pervert, you think it's just like, I don't know, you watch too much porn, or what's the thing you kids do? You have sex pillows? I'm not going to judge. I get it, I think. I mean, I sort of get the idea. I was lonely once. Is that the tone this video is going to take? Jesus Christ, Skye. Okay. Are you with me? Whew. I feel like I'm with me. I don't do drugs and I feel high as hell. Anyways, what am I talking about? Sex pillows, pervert. Yes. So the sexual sense comes from the religious sense of turning away from God. That was the idea. And when we study Ethel Cain's music, we know that she is the daughter of a preacher, that she grew up in a southern household in a very patriarchal society, and she has turned away from that. No matter what she did, by the very fact of being anything other than cis, het, straight, whatever, she would be, in the eyes of a church which believes in something called normal, which does not exist. Okay, which believes in something called default, which does not exist. There is no default human experience. That should shut a lot of people up. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. You are turning away from God. So I think that's intentional. I think pervertere is implied in this, and so is the other sense of a sense of guilt. Because when you call yourself a pervert, no one ever calls themselves a pervert and feels good about it, right? No one's ever like, yeah, I'm a pervert. God, how many things am I going to say there? I don't know. I mostly get rap views now, so maybe I have some really confused rap fans. Anyways, yeah, I'm a pervert. Like saying that, no one ever says that with pride. It's usually with shame, and it makes sense because it's very tied into our religious vocabulary, and it's the religious vocabulary that dominates so much of any kind of vocabulary that is negative and about self-hatred. And that's what this album is about. It's about those feelings. It's about feeling like you've been judged for turning away from God, which is what her other albums were about. It's about feeling perverted. And it's also just about a really Southern Gothic horror scene. Now, if you've never read any Southern Gothic or watched any Southern Gothic material, it's pretty wild because it's all basically formed on religious intolerance, the scars of patriarchy, an individual lost in an uncaring system, usually some amount of guilt, some kind of family drama, often some form of incest or something like that. That's often what Southern Gothic is about, usually in a place of poverty, often dominated by the church. This is, like her other albums, in that space of Southern Gothic, but it's much further. The first two albums were sort of like A24 Southern Gothic, like fun and relatable and cool and smart and good. I'm not dissing A24. I think I'm finally seeing Nosferatu tomorrow, and that might as well be an A24 movie. I don't know if it is. But this album is this. This is what happens. Okay, when you're an indie art director, you can like do the indie movie and then get your bag and go do a terrible Marvel movie, right? You can just go do that, or you can just get weirder. And Ethel got weirder, and this album is turning away from non-weirdness, away from pop legibility, away from Lana, away from Taylor, away from being a pop-in diva. I mean, even the album cover, it's all blurry and just distorted, and it feels like, I mean, there's a lot of great Southern Gothic horror movies, or it's not that there's a lot of great ones, but it's often a theme that's interesting. You'll maybe have a movie about like a family that moves into a house and things are strange or weird, or there's some kind of history there. The feeling of like walking into a room where there's just too much wood. I don't know what it is. I guess because, we associate wood paneling with the 70s. I don't know what, but like you walk into some room where there's too much wood and too many dolls, and you're just kind of in that space. So this album is an avant-garde art film, Southern Gothic horror, way away from any kind of legibility here. It reminds me more of the movie Wise Blood than the artist Wise Blood. God damn, that's a nerdy reference, man. For those of you who got that, I hope you appreciate that, because I think that's a really good point. But also, I'm in a weird mood. My lights died, my baby's crying. I'm pretty sure I talked about sex pillows, which I get. Is there like a funny name for those things? Tell me in the comments, or don't. Am I on a watch list? I might be. It's interesting because I did watch a movie. So if you don't know I'm very lucky in life. I do have pretty bad ADHD. Like it's pretty hard to. I mean, my wife is awesome because she really understands. But it's pretty exhausting being around me. I need stimulus all the time. Like at least one kind of stimulus at all times, and usually two, sometimes three kinds of stimulus. So when I'm reviewing an album, I'm listening to the album, and I'm on an elliptical at the gym, and I'm watching a movie on mute, and I try to have them link up. And this album is so goddamn long. This album does not fit my life at all. I like 40-minute albums where I can get a 40-minute workout, come back home, take care of the kids, whatever. This album's like an hour and a half. I had to do 2 different sessions at the gym, and I got lucky by finding recent horror movies that I'd never even heard of. One of them was called The Bornless Ones, which was pretty good. And I gotta say, like, took place in this house with too much wood and some weird kind of signs on it, and there's lots of themes of kind of perversion and sin and Satanism, and this album definitely elevated that movie. I find it really interesting that this album is getting such a positive response from you, the young people. I am just going to guess statistically that you are younger than me, because like it's a hard album. It's not fun. It's not an easy album to listen to, but it's very tactile. It's very atmospheric. It's very layered. It's very emotionally edifying, but there are long patches of quiet or just kind of machine-like sounds. And I think this might actually be a positive sign about what's happening to you kids who grow up and, who almost died because they turned TikTok off, so you can't go back to watching Family Guy clips with the Subway Surfers underneath, that whole kind of thing of like how tactile and pointless everything is. This album's very tactile. This album is pinball, not video games. It's vinyl, not an MP3. It really feels like something. It feels heavy. It feels lived in. You feel like you're living in this album. But it's not good to work out. I did not break a sweat listening to this album. Well, someone now is going to have a heart attack. That's what I want to. But that's all right. So I'm going to go through the album pretty quickly. I'm really enjoying how weird I feel right now. I hope that's communicating pretty well to you. My wife made some aloo gobi. I peeled the potatoes and stuff, and I prepared the cucumbers and stuff for the side dish. So she didn't do all the work. She did most of the work. I'm having a nice night. I was listening to the Aloo Gobi song by Weezer on repeat. But still, this is good. I'm glad I'm in this mode. Starts off with the song Perverts with Nearer My God to Thee. Great hymn. And, that's the thing. It's spooky hymns are spooky for a reason. They're spooky because taking them out of their religious context makes you think about what they actually mean, and the idea of being nearer to God, and these underwater sounds and these atmospheric sounds and these unclear words, and everything so far away, and there's so much gloaming, and it's just such a dark, miserable, weird world. And then you have this really close song, and again, Near I Am to Thee. Again, this album, if we take the translation of the word pervert literally, it is literally turning away from God. Next song is called Punish. That was a Star Wars reference. If you picked up that Star Wars reference, tell me in the comments. They are to be punished. That's called Punish. Nice high singing here. This was, I guess, the lead single. I'm sort of offended there was even a single at all for this album. I feel like, that would be like taking 3 minutes of a movie and just being like, here's the movie. Very mysterious lyrics that kind of fade in and out. You don't really hear them. The piano is actually I looked it up in the liner notes, and it says piano, a ghost. So that's awesome. She got a ghost to play piano. Like, in the horror movies where you go in and the piano's playing on its own, that's who's playing piano. Some mechanical whines. The singing reminded me a lot of speaking of goth, of This Mortal Coil, that kind of singing, which I just, I'm just a sucker. I'm just a sucker. That kind of female vocalist with that kind of faraway soaring thing, soaring tone, a little bitter, little acrid. It's just great. These loud, distorted guitar sounds. And then listen, I did look up a lot of stuff on Lyric Genius because I did not have the time. I literally did not have the time in my actual life to listen to the album as much as I wanted to. But I did have time to listen to it, at least 3 or 4 times, and look at it with Genius. And fortunately, there's a lot of explanation. She likes talking about her work. Punish is about a PDF file. Do I have to say that even when I'm not talking about Drake? Do I have to censor myself when I talk about... Anyways, who was shot by the child's father and now lives in exile where he physically maims himself to simulate the bullet wound in order to punish himself. That's not a party. Just so you know, the baby's okay. She always gets fussy before bed. My wife's up there. So if you hear those sounds and it's making you feel concerned, this is not a Lou Reed Berlin thing, okay? By the way, if you like depressing music, check out the album Berlin by Lou Reed. It's not as depressing as this. Next song is called House of Psychotic Woman. House of Psychotic Woman. Sounds of tapping, more mechanical noises. Like, it was funny because, like I was on a treadmill and someone was, and I was like, it sounded like a treadmill, and then someone at the gym was like using a vacuum cleaner, and I was like, is this part of the music, and that's a lot of this album. And then just saying I love you, I do over and over again. Very freaky, very spacey. And then we get to Vacillator, which is what passes as an upbeat song on this album. Very upbeat singing. I mean, of course, it's 2 minutes of silence and mechanical noises, and then she sings in a very Sade-like voice. Or as I called her when I was growing up, Sade. I like that sound you make when you're clawing at the edge and without escape. Do you like that, baby? I could make you come 20 times a day. Close the door, let me in. The way that's written is so unsettling. Because it sounds like it should be, sexy time, all right. But it's like, close the door, let me in. Close the door, I could make you come 20 times a day. Close the door, let me in. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, the whole thing, it's just very uncomfortable. If you love me, keep it to yourself. Great lyrics. That's the thing. My main problem with this album being so atmospheric, I'm just gonna text my wife that it's okay. The thing's gonna shake here. It's okay. She is crying. Fits the ambiance of the video. Good. So I just sent her that, so she doesn't have to worry about the crying. Because normally it's a big deal. If I'm talking about like something else, but I'm talking about Perverts. And this is my new challenge to you. If you're doing a review of Perverts, how far out can you get, If you love me, keep it to yourself. What bums me about this album being so atmospheric is that we're missing some of her lyrics. And this is just a perfectly constructed lyric. If you love me, keep it to yourself. Because it's like, don't tell me or don't tell other people. Like, what does keep it to yourself mean? I think it means don't tell me, because I guess this is just a physical thing. This great line with these snare hits and the brush. Then we get to the song Onanist. Onanist is just a fancy term for someone who jerks it a lot, So that's what onanist means. Faraway piano, descending lines with these weird vocal tracing, these melodies, and it's high and it soars. And then I actually didn't look up the lyrics to this song. It's fairly unclear to me what this is about. But that's okay, because we're going to be talking about the next song, Pull Drone, which starts off with just the speaking. Okay, it's funny because my daughter loves Ethel Cain, and so I said I was reviewing this, and she said, my 17-year-old daughter, not the one crying upstairs. Actually, she liked it as well, but the 17-year-old, and she's like, are you going to have fun describing all those lyrics? Which was a normal joke to make, because there's not a lot of lyrics on this album, but I am. I'm probably going to read every single lyric to this song, Pull Drone, because it's all based on the simulacrum, Jesus Christ. Just 2 days ago, a week ago, I talked about how mad I am at the term simulacrum because I think people don't use it when it should be used. But when it should be used, it's not a bad word, okay? The basic idea is this. It's when there's something real replaced by a representation of something real. A classic example is like the way that Disneyland depicts America, right? Like, it is not a real place. It is representing a real place, but the place that it's representing never actually existed. Main Street USA did not exist. It's not actually, like, it's not our thing. It's a representation of a real thing. And when you live in a world that we currently live in, we are increasingly surrounded by more and more simulacra. Sorry, Bo's ears are itchy. It's okay, Bo. This episode is fine. You can be all weird and noisy if you want. You can even lick your foot. Gross. So something real that is replaced by representations of something real. Once you start thinking about this idea, it does drive you crazy because you see it everywhere and it is everywhere. And the question of like what is real and what is a representation of something real with the internet and such, it is absolutely everywhere. But like more than that, the way, oh my God, there's just so many ways. And I'm not going to get into, I'm just going to read these lyrics because these are apparently her idea of the 12 pillars of the simulacrum. 1, apathy. I am what I am and I am nothing. So that's the basic idea. You start off, you are nothingness. 2, disruption. There goes a great shudder through the muscle, a shimmering of bells through the mist. So you're going from nothingness into something. Disruption, like coming into existence is disruption, right? Because it used to be that you were just a bunch of atoms that were just flying around. You were like part of an apple or something, and now all of a sudden you're a human being, you know? The atoms that make up your body used to be in a sex pillow, so don't judge. 3, curiosity. So from nothingness to movement and existence to curiosity. A quick moment to crane the neck. I've always possessed the insatiable need to see what happens inside the room. 4, assimilation. This feels to me like this is how one becomes a human being, and you're curious, and then you assimilate. You just try to be like everyone else. Low wellspring of knowledge, a feeling, sensation, beauty overwhelming. I will dislocate my jaw to fit it all in. Like you have to, the physical pain it takes to conform and to assimilate to society, right? That's what you have to do. I imagine that's particularly true in a very rigid society, especially when you are aggressively at odds with what is expected of you. 5, aggrandization. The pull, yes, the pull, send down your cordage of suffocation and let me in. 6, delineation. I want to know what God knows, and I will be with him. Sent over the edge I sigh, flush against the veil I sing. So she's starting to lose me here a little bit. Well, not lose me, I'm just, I'm thinking about this. I've been thinking about this all day. So 5, aggrandization. So I guess you feel larger and larger as you are led into society. And then eventually you want to get connected with God and you feel that. And this is what's important. That point where you feel like you're most connected with God, you then hit 7, which is perversion. And I think this is important because when you want to know God and you don't know God, that might be where you turn against God. That might just sort of be how it happens. It's no good bearing false witness, the sinner's errand. I am what I am, but we are not the same. It is no good speaking of fairness, a fool's errand. So I think that's, as far as I can possibly read it, somebody who realizes that they will never become what society wants them to be. They can never possibly assimilate. I am what I am, but we are not the same. And then this leads to resentment. This, once you realize that you are, by your existence, perverted. Okay, so if you are in any way against what you've been told God wants, you are turning away from God. And that can lead to this sense of 8, resentment. Are these laurels to be proud of? Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. I don't know. It's hard for me not to read this as a becoming narrative of for a trans person. You know, understanding like how much I've come to hate you since I began to live, because but before before the becoming, right, before the transition, it's arguable that some people feel as though they were not actually living, right? They were living in a way that was so out of whack with how they feel and how they are that they begun to live, and then that leads to hate. I'm not going to do a Yoda voice because this is a serious talk, and I've already decided humor is not going to be part of this video, except for the sex pillow stuff. Since I began to live, hate, 9, separation. I was an angel, though plummeting the stars as beams shining through the wheel. I'm sure that hell must be cold. Beautiful. So right there, so we had the perversion, then we have the resentment, and then resentment leads to hate. Okay, leads to hate. I was an angel, though plummeting. Of course, that's what happened with Satan, right? Satan literally fell from heaven. And that's the whole story. That's her whole story, is she was a religious person, but she also was judged a pervert just in her own being. 10, degradation, nature chews on me. 11, annihilation, this agony, such is the consequence of audience. I will claw my way back to the great dark, and we will not speak. Oh, one more thing about about hell must be cold. If you read, Dante's back there. I don't know if you see Dante back there. I have a bust of Dante back there. If you read the Inferno, the center of hell is very cold. Like where Satan is, it's very confusing. The geography of hell is very confusing. But like Satan is basically cut in half. He's like stuck in ice, and it's very cold there. Dante is a good poet. So degradation, like just being down and low and feeling like you're so far from God. 11, annihilation, this agony, the great dark. 12, desolation. Therein lies the sacred geometry of onanism, our Ouroboros of punishment. So Ouroboros is a snake eating its own tail, and that's where it is. I am that I was, as I no longer am, for I am nothing. I'd like to start again, the beginning. Actually, I'm gonna shake the camera again. My wife says don't shake the camera, but I don't care. That's gonna feed into the whole feeling here. So it ends with I am nothing, and it begins I am that I was, as I no longer am, for I am nothing. I am what I am, and I am nothing. It's a pretty interesting idea. I don't know if the simulacrum is like the simulacrum of faith or of God itself, if representations of God are there and God isn't there, or representations of virtue when the virtue isn't there. I don't know. It's a great poem. It's a great poem, and one which deserves a lot of attention and care, which I think it will get. But I felt like I needed to read it all and kind of go through it, because you need to feel it in order to get to that Ouroboros and then start all over again. There's long, unsettling, droning sounds arriving and leaving off of this main note. And then it stops, and then it restarts. Next song is called Etienne. Simple piano lines. Listen, so we're rewatching Twin Peaks. We started rewatching Twin Peaks before David Lynch died, R.I.P. A lot of people wanted me to do a David Lynch retrospective. I'm not like a David Lynch guy. I really love Blue Velvet. I really love The Straight Story. But like Lost Highway, there was just too much saxophone. I'm sorry. And people say I look like Bill Pullman, which I do not enjoy. They used to say I looked like Skarsgård. Now they say I look like Bill Pullman. Aging is really tough. Why is the president from Independence Day talking to me about Ethel Cain? Anyways, but this, I mean, I was talking about this with my wife. The biggest influence of Twin Peaks is probably the soundtrack. It's probably Angelo Badalamenti's soundtrack, because he took some of the most atmospheric, funky, weird, sparse jazz and just threw it right into the mainstream. And every weird kid in America and across the world heard that music and was like, music can be this, the same way that every filmmaker who saw Twin Peaks, because Twin Peaks was a big hit on ABC, okay, it was a big hit, and they were like, art can be like this, movies can be like this. Little girl likes her brain. It's a very, very good show. This feels like it's in almost Twin Peaks like intervals here, and it really kind of settles in. And there's this guitar like comes in 4 minutes, and then apparently it's a recorded sermon of someone who wanted to. I can't say this word either. What unalive? Is that what you say for that? God, I hate the internet. Anyways, so I guess it's an old sermon that she found because she grew up in a Pentecostal household or some kind of very religious household, and somebody decided they didn't want to kill themselves. Can I even say that? Anyways, uh, because he enjoyed jogging. It's a lot more profound than that. Apparently, Etienne is after Etienne Louis Boulet, who is a French architect. I'm vaguely aware of him. There's like very little. He was like almost a theoretical architect. He made this like crazy, like funerary sculpture for Isaac Newton that was never made, but the just the drawings. It's sort of actually like what David Lynch did. Like architects, not in his time because he died in 1799. He died right in the like, Revolution, all that stuff. Like, okay, one second. I just said she's still falling asleep, so don't come in before checking. Got you, dear. So like you just have to check it out. It's like seriously look up Etienne Louis Boulet's architecture, especially that it's like this gigantic dome with a ball in the center, and there's a sense that he had as an Enlightenment thinker that he was basically a surrealist at times, despite the fact he was considered a neoclassicist. So he was discovered much later, and apparently that's what she's thinking of. She is on another level. Like I mean that in a. Did I say that in a patronizing way? Is me asking if I asked it in a patronizing way patronizing? She's on another level in the way that she is operating very nonlinear. So, how this song is related to an 18th century architect, I can listen to the song and I can look at the sculpture. I'm gonna pull it up. This is such a weird video. I'm just gonna pull it up. Etienne Boulet Newton, so that you can see what I'm talking about. Because if you haven't seen this thing is just absolutely insane. Okay, so this was the. Hey, what the? Knock it off. I don't want the. Okay, all right, whatever. How did I end up on Amazon? Okay, so this was the sculpture. This was the. That's what he was. That's this right here is the building. Those are trees. Okay, we're talking in the 18th century here. This is what he wanted to build for Newton. Okay, that was back when we had scientists. Those were cool. Anyways, so listening to the music and looking at that image, did I just mute myself? No, it makes a lot of sense. Next song is called Theoria, which is a starter Pokemon in the Galar region. It's like a fiery. Sorry, you didn't. Humor is not the angle to take. Theoria, I choose you. Evolves into Thetorchum. It could just keep on going. No, it's apparently some word that she made up. The definition is the bitter acceptance of the knowledge that God will let you near, but he won't let you stay. Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, God damn it. Am I right? This whole pervert thing? I feel like I might be right. I feel like this might be the whole thing about like turning away from God and how you have to turn away from God if you don't fit into how you feel you have to turn away from God. Because I believe in God, right? I believe in Jesus. I'm positive Jesus is cool with trans people. There's like no that's not even a question. That's like I'm pretty sure Jesus would not be good at Call of Duty. Just give them the thing. You wouldn't be able to figure it out. Okay, but like I'm positive. Like theologically, I'm pretty sound on that whole thing. But living in a society, living in a religious world, that's the impression that you get, and this feeling, thetortia, that God will let you near but won't let you stay, it's really sad. And I think if you believe in God, that's like a really sad thing to hear because it means that you feel like you can never be accepted. And sort of the whole deal about Jesus, boy, I'm really getting out there, aren't I? The whole thing about Jesus is that he forgives you and he accepts you, and I'm not trying to, you don't believe in Jesus, I don't care at all, okay? You cannot believe in Jesus forever. That doesn't matter to me. I'm just telling you why I think he's a cool cat. Is that basic idea, is the sort of forgiveness thing. Anyways. And then at this point, I was watching a different movie because it was the next day. When you watch movies based on whatever's playing on Pluto TV, you don't get to choose what you watch. So I was watching this movie called Dark Circles, which is about another like haunted house and a family that has a baby, and there's a lot of the baby's in danger the whole time. It was super unpleasant. Next song is called Amber Waves, gentle guitar, sort of a joke song because it's like, you hear Amber Waves and you think of America the Beautiful. Hey, you know what I do for my classes? I ask them a question. What if the American national anthem was America the Beautiful and not the Star Spangled Banner? The Star Spangled Banner, great. It's a great poem. It's a superior poem. It really is. It's a very well-written poem. But what does it mean that our national anthem is a song to an object? To something that can be made and bought, okay? It makes a lot of sense. We are literally singing to a piece of fabric, and it's talking about war and bombs. America the Beautiful, it's all about our land, because the secret is what makes America so powerful is that we got all this land, and it's all good land. We can do all sorts of great stuff on it. That's our big advantage. It's the amber waves of grain and the purple mountains majesties, Anyways, this song, if it were sped up, could be kind of a pop song. If it were sped up, it could be a Lana Del Rey song. Amber Waves is about throwing your life away to get high. Like I said, it could be a Lana Del Rey song because a lot of her songs are about throwing your life away to get high. And the guitar, the way it traces the notes, is just beautiful. It maybe doesn't fit thematically as well with the rest of the album, but it's nice to have a little change of pace there at the end. So there's my review. Was that as strange for you as it was for me? I think this might be art. I think this review might be accidental art, but I don't know. Maybe you turned it off because my light's turned off. I got to plug in my portable charger. Well, until next time. Oh, did you want to see the dogs? I'll show you the dogs. You see? They don't have to worry about perversion. They don't have to worry about God. They don't have to worry about it at all. Just not even a little bit. At no point do they ever feel conflict with their creator. At no point do they ever feel that anything they want to do at any point is good or bad. And you know that because Toby, he ate my Chipmunk Christmas album. He's not going to hell. All dogs go to heaven. I once won tickets to that movie from my barber, Jerry the Barber. I won tickets. I didn't go. And I felt guilty about it ever since because someone else won those. If they'd won them, they would have seen the movie. I've still never seen it. I feel deep Christian guilt about not seeing the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven. And that is the tone to end this video. There's the camera.